Electronisounds Audio, the YouTube channel for you.
Hey, what's happening, friends? It's Dean from Electronisounds. Stick around. Today, I want to talk to you about 5 benefits or advantages that you might not have thought of when it comes to using virtual Eurorack software like MyRack and VCVRack, as opposed to using real-world Eurorack hardware. Come on, let's get into this. I think this is one of the most obvious benefits. Real-world Eurorack modules add up quickly and can typically cost between $50 on the very low end for things like passive multiples and other small utility modules, and up to $600 to $700 for some high-end sampler modules or complex oscillators, and even more for some top-of-the-line Schwayman modules or large performance mixers and large sequencer modules. Yes, there are plenty of options for paid modules in VCVRack too, but in comparison, they are relatively inexpensive and not going to break your wallet. Another thing I think a lot of people don't realize either is just how expensive the cables can be. A 5 or 10 pack of decent quality cables of just one length can easily cost between $20 and $30, and you're going to need quite a few cables when you start trying to patch even a medium-sized system creatively. The cable costs really add up quick. Being able to work on more than one project at a time. This doesn't sound like a big deal until you really start to think about it. If you've got a big, thundering techno patch going in your real-world Eurorack system, and you want to work on some ambient music today, for example, you're likely going to have to unpatch quite a few cables and refocus your intentions, which takes more time than you might think. Sometimes that alone is enough of a deterrent to keep you from changing directions or making something new. In MyRack or VCVRack, you just load up another blank project whenever you want and just start going for it. No time wasted on setup or unpatching a current project in your system. Not everyone has an endless supply of time to be patching and unpatching, so this benefit is really huge when you think about it. Reason number 3 is something you might not have even considered: collabing with a friend. You can sort of collaborate with real-world Eurorack if you have a friend over to your place or if you go to a friend's studio, but you certainly can't email a patch to that friend across the world or even a few towns over. Using either MyRack or VCVRack, collaborating with a friend is entirely possible and not that difficult to do, actually. If you haven't done that yet, it might be something to consider to help you come up with new ideas that you might not have even thought of when patching on your own. Being able to experiment with modules you don't actually have in your real-world system. Maybe you want to make a patch that uses 16 filters. Well, I don't personally own 16 real-world Eurorack filter modules, but when using MyRack or VCVRack, I can load as many filters as the CPU will allow. Now, I'm not sure exactly how many filter modules I can load before the iPad or the desktop CPU would max out, but for sure, it's way more than 16. You get the idea. You don't have to limit your creativity based on how many modules you actually own or can fit into your cases. Project Recall. This one is huge. Remember that awesome experimental patch you made a year ago? I'm sure you've grown in your understanding of Eurorack and patching techniques since you made that. Personally, even after using Eurorack for years, I'm still learning new ways to do things and coming up with new ideas on ways to patch my modules all the time. With real-world Eurorack, any patch you make eventually gets dismantled, cables get pulled or rerouted, and ideas get lost easily and often. But if you're using MyRack or VCVRack, you can just reload any of your old sessions and patches and refine them, or use them as instant inspiration to start brand new patches and musical ideas.